Yo, is it Wednesday already?
It is.
I don't even recognize this today. You have a white hat on. I have a V-neck on. I think it's a totally different show. We have oval lower thirds. We're talking about the Bolt and global EVs and inflation. I mean, that feels normal.
Yo, I don't even know how you said all that just now. How'd you do that? You had like 18 topics in the intro. That was impressive.
I get it all. That's how I feel this Wednesday. Like, we just got all kinds of stuff going on. There's one thing that I'm so excited about today for one reason. Well, for a lot of reasons, but I'm particularly excited about today is because today is t-shirt printing day. And I often joke with people that the only reason I'm in business is so that I can make swag and stickers. Yes. So we've got these custom, they're t-shirts to commemorate the premiere launch of our new show, More Than Cars. It's going to be in Tampa next week on Tuesday. By the way, if you're going to be in Tampa or a digital dealer, you need to come to this premiere. We rented out the Tampa Theater May 2nd. No, not May 2nd. What am I saying? What's the date? It is May 2nd. Oh, crap. I was like, it's not in May. Yeah, no, it's May 2nd. May 2nd, Tuesday night, Tampa Theater. You could go to so2x.com and get your tickets. If you're going to be a digital dealer, why wouldn't you be there that night? It's going to be amazing. Red carpet and free concessions and drinks and all the things. But our crew is going to be wearing special t-shirts that are white. So you're wearing the white hat to commemorate our very first Asodu white t-shirt. It's kind of like the summer.
Maybe I should bring the white cap.
You should if you're gonna wear the white t-shirt.
Asodu right here on the side right there would be so dope.
Straight up,
man.
And the t-shirts say love people more than you love cars, but the More Than Cars is highlighted because that's the name of the show. And it's got like this really nice summery mint green. It's cool. So I'm excited about printing t-shirts today.
I love swag. Let's go.
We'll post some behind the scenes on our Instagram account. You can follow Asodu on Instagram, and we'll try to do some behind the scenes when we're printing and likely messing up the first few. We got a heat press. Like, we're going full vertical, Kyle.
Full vertical. Oh man. Today also there is a new In the Dirt episode. We're releasing a few of these because Paul was at the Kane event and he got to hang out with Jamie Butters, the editor for Automotive News. So awesome, that's like on the cutting room floor with what's happening at the OEM level right now. So just the insights from that, it's going to be good. I can't wait. This is one of the I love the ones where I'm not part of the conversation.
You haven't heard it, right? You get to actually hear
things, right? So
I gotta say, Jamie Butters, it's the first time we had an actual conversation. We've seen each other at events, and we actually got to spend a little time and hang out and talk. And he is such a cool dude. And he's got I don't know what pictures we're using, but whatever he was wearing this suit that day, or this sport coat. I was like, he just had total Bill Pullman vibes. Do you know who Bill Pullman is?
No, but
man, look him up. Look him up.
Bill.
Bill Pullman, Pullman. He played the president in several movies, and I think he played the president in the movie Independence Day.
Oh, I know who that is. Yeah. I mean, I just didn't know the name, but I know who that is.
Calm, reserved. He had Bill Pullman vibes. So go
Independence
check it out.
Day is the one that's that one.
Yeah, we're that age where that's where we know him from. So, so you can definitely look him up or look up In the Dirt on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. All right, let's get into some news. So
speaking of OEMs,
oh boy, segue into the first story. Kind of that kind of day.
Wednesday.
It's funny because we've talked about this vehicle several times over the last month, and several different opinions on it. But after the better part of a decade, GM is saying goodbye to the Bolt, as the last units will roll off the Orion, Michigan assembly line later this year. The move marks the no. It is not that kind of ending for the Bolt. I'm going to change your mind. The move marks the end of the Bolt as the most affordable EV currently in the U.S. market, making way for the upcoming Equinox EV, according to CEO Mary Barra. So right now, the Bolt starts at $26,000. Subtract $7,500 from that, and that, my friend, is a sub $20,000 EV. The Bolt experienced record sales in its final year, with GM expecting to produce over 70,000 Bolts EVs and EUVs this year alone. GM plans to replace it with a slightly larger vehicle, the Chevy Equinox and the Blazer SS, based on GM's new Ultium platform. And they're taking this factory and they're going to invest $4 billion to flip this factory, triple the staff. Oh, so much.
I'm on the trigger pads today. Let's go.
He's on the ones and twos. It must be the white hat. And then they're going to make the Sierra, the new EV Sierra and Silverado, out of this factory. The articles that we linked up in here said so many good things about the Bolt. One writer for the EV news outlet, Electrek, says his family has a Bolt and 2 Teslas, and he and his wife actually fight over who gets to drive the Bolt.
Wow. See, the most output, the most sales, and you're like, nix it.
That's something.
I mean, get it. Okay, so here's the reason.
Charging speed is a big deal.
It's charging speed and the new platform, right? So you'd have to re-platform the whole car. So if they're going to reimagine like a smaller car, non-SUV, reimagining it on the new platform is definitely the way to go. So I get it. Like it got them a long way. It was it was like Leaf, Bolt were the early 2010s. And so, you know, it got them this far, high level of production. They obviously learned a lot from the vehicle. And, you know, I think that they're going to do good to like move it into new platform, you know, new technology, all those things.
And somewhat ironically, the writer of that article who said he and his wife fight over the Bolt, he said, it's just our favorite one. It's comfortable. It's zippy. He said, and most of all, we love it's like such a great Apple CarPlay integration is why they fight over it. And as we talked about and so as we've talked about a few times, GM has said they're phasing out the CarPlay integration in all of their future EVs.
That's not happening.
We'll say it again. We'll say it again. We said it a while back.
Have you been to Reddit recently? It basically nothing exists, but GM doesn't have Apple CarPlay.
It's the only thing. Well, they're getting some kind of press out of it. Speaking of getting press,
stop.
Hey.
Segue
time. All right. A new release from the International Energy Agency, the IEA, reports that electric cars are expected to account for 1/5 of all vehicle sales in the global market in 2023, with sales growing 35% to 14 million units. So that is up from just 4% of the market in 2020. Now it's going to be 20% of the market in 2024. Currently, China leads the world in electric car adoption, as we know, with about 60% of electric car sales in China. 2022. That is really
one country. So that's unbelievable.
I know. And the report also says, like the transition where we are now is going to save about $5 billion sorry, I'm using that billion word all the time now. 5 million barrels per day of oil.
That's incredible.
And so another last little nugget from this. It says in emerging and developing economies, 2- and 3-wheel EVs are more common than cars. So think of countries like India. Over half of India's 3-wheeler registrations in 2022. So you see those little vehicles like those little rickshaws and all that stuff. Over half of them are already electric. And
when
India,
you think about that, it makes a ton of sense, and like
as long as there's electric, as long as there's somewhere to plug it in.
It's been coming, a lot of news sources have been kind of tracking the potential for India to overtake China's population here.
It's gonna be like
months.
Yeah, right? It's like here basically.
Yeah, and so with the acceleration of the electric cars in that country, we're just going to see a global acceleration of it. But you think about this in European or Asian countries, you just see a lot smaller of a vehicle, all the way down to 2- and 3-wheeler vehicles, not 4-wheeler. So when you think about range or the ability to charge quickly or the ability to get in and out of places with an electric vehicle, just the concept of having that type of car makes a lot of sense. So it makes a lot of sense why we're just seeing the acceleration of vehicle sales in those places. And there was an earlier adoption of new OEMs and technology companies in those countries, especially which sped up the EV adoption because of just more availability than what we have in the US. Some of those OEMs are just starting to get to the US at this point. So, but just like to recognize, the rest of the world is actually way more sped up in EV adoption than even the US is wild.
Yeah. Ours are definitely more linear, vehicles, 4-wheel vehicles, big vehicles.
Give me a Hellcat.
Yeah.
America.
Speaking of America.
Stop.
Hey.
Segue.
Time. 3 segues in one episode.
Epic. Hey, consumers have been paying some higher prices. I don't know if you've recognized that in your own personal wallet, but benefiting companies like McDonald's, PepsiCo, and Kimberly-Clark.
Ooh, all the health
even
food
as
companies.
Some executives warn that shoppers may become more resistant to price increases.
Finally.
Despite a bunch of price hikes, McDonald's saw a 12% increase in same-store sales, while PepsiCo reported strong demand and raised its revenue growth forecast. Execs are cautious about consumers' tolerance as price increases, the labor market suffering, and recession stuff looming. So you've got kind of this like market that is trying to find its own balance. The interesting one here is that like Conger Brands, who you would know touches things like Hunt's Ketchup, Slim Jims, said that they're done boosting prices because prices and inflation are now kind of matched in the market, which is good news for consumers.
Yeah. Like, are we maybe at the top of this?
Yep.
Exactly. And it's funny because McDonald's is doing all these things right now to just make their operations more efficient. They just launched their fully humanless restaurant. I think it's in Fort Worth too. We could have visited that when we were out there. Been there. But we didn't. Kyle, you and I eat a lot of McDonald's. You and I
never, ever, ever. Okay.
But I think this index is one of the indicators. Number one, if we are getting to the equilibrium of inflation and price increases, that's good because that'll bring stability to a lot of prices across the board. We talked yesterday about, had this article about, dealers contributing to inflation and somebody's like kind of accusing them of that, but really all the way down to the Slim Jims, right? The prices have been going up significantly. And if that's going to slow down, then like, it could lead to just the stabilization factor that we've all kind of been waiting for to see what happens. And, I tie this back to dealer world, right? People are still very price sensitive. Like we're seeing it every day. Vehicle prices are still really, really high. And the bottom line is like being empathetic toward that in even the way you talk and even your word tracks and even the way you greet customers or talk about their day or ask them questions about what's going on. Even just like, you know what it's like when somebody just relates to you immediately.
Yeah. Well, and just like recognizing the relationship of all retail purchases. So yes, this is maybe a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 vehicle, but as a percentage of the price increase that they're seeing at the grocery store, at their retail chains or anything like that, a lot of times people just don't recognize that that's the case. But like my wife and I we were talking about just Chipotle, right? It used to be $6.25 for a burrito. Now it's like $8.25 for a burrito.
I don't know. My math isn't that great, but that's close to 30%.
That's a massive price difference. And so when you think about just like the difference of percentages, this is a way for your salespeople or your team to recognize like, oh, these people are experiencing this in the rest of retail. It's just at a smaller scale, but having that conversation so that there's a recognition like, oh, all of retail is up, inflation has grown, there is a leveling out of pricing. We're seeing that in the auto world, but that recognition and that ability to communicate at that level with customers is just going to be helpful in being relatable and being relational in the way that you're communicating so that it's not just like a siloed transaction, that it actually relates to all the transactions that they're working with in life.
Yeah, very true. We one of our YouTube shorts yesterday hit pretty hard, hit in a good way. And it was this article talking about, the Wall Street Journal focusing on dealers or saying that some people were blaming dealers. This report that came out, that said dealers contributed to markups to inflation in a real heavy way. And a lot of the comments started lighting up of people, like you got the typical people like, hey, let's pile on the dealers. But I will say at least half of the comments in that thread, and we try to respond to most of them, were people saying, actually, no, if you look at this and this and this and this, it's kind of inflation has been pretty consistent across the board. And then there's a little thing called supply and demand. So apparently there's still a lot of demand for Big Macs and Pepsi. The two things we can really count on.
For some crazy reason.
Well, I'll tell you what, there is always a demand for empathetic people who are willing to take care of another person. And that, my friends, are you today. And we're in it with you. So let's go do that instead.